Right, actually,
and also because if there is such a personal relationship, it has to be obviously very subjective.
Absolutely.
So, isn't it a matter of interpretation?
Yeah, I'm probably going to quickly, because thank you very much. It's a very good question, actually. And I have...
Did you want us to do the polling at the end?
Oh, yes, we will, yeah. And we will wrap it hopefully up in the next few minutes. But I'm just going to quickly go to my site here and... So basically there is a bit where it talks about what the relationship is going to be like. And some of the objection or the misconception of the argument is a lot of people thought that, the old argument where God can reveal himself to everybody by just rearranging his name using the stars. And basically the argument is not saying that, because that's quite ridiculous, because actually if you do that, and I agree with the subjective nature of the reception of information, because you could see this as a sign of God, some other person would go, this actually, especially we're talking language, when it's written in the language that they cannot recognize, then by definition they're probably going to think it's a constellation of some sort. So, and that's why I think if there is a God, he would never communicate in language. I'm a linguist, and I know how ambiguous language can be. And he can sort of read it. If there is a God, this is what I posit to do, and he wants to have a relationship with everybody. Quite easy. We're talking about an omnipotent God who can send sort of a broadcast at the same time to all human beings, direct download into their brains, talking to them in their own thoughts and language and everything, giving them that subjective experience, like the one given to Saul. The road to Damascus, Saul was given one. A lot of people are given all these, obviously, a revelation. Revelation, by definition, is a first-hand experience, It's a hearsay. So you tell me I've seen God. Okay, I believe you. I haven't seen him. You've seen him. But this is the sort of thing I'd argue. That's the relationship I'd argue. If there's a God, he'd be able to send a broadcast to all brains in their ways and choosing the exact way, because if there is a God who's omniscient as well, he'd know exactly what it takes to make you believe. He knows the trick, and he knows the secret to your personality, and he will download that particular information directly to you. And you'll still have the same journey like everybody else. You still have to fall in love and marry and raise kids and make a living, and all the character building stuff is still there.
Okay, I think you're next.
What I would like to add is, because this is the general trend, people tend to get more religious in a country. The problem doesn't decrease; they actually increase. Is what I have noticed. The increase in religiosity in the people that is often combined with increase in the hardships and suffering for majority or most of the people in the same country.
Yes.
Even in the communities where they say they are not religious, and if a community is extremely religious, their societies have problems that do not exist in, let's say, a non-religious society. Stemming straight from the ideology.
Yeah, but you see, I'll be very careful here, because I will not use this as an argument against God. I'll use an argument against their understanding of their religion. And I agree with you, religions, the more religious countries and nations, through a lot of statistics and reports, they seem to suffer from poverty, teen birth, and all the problems that comes with sort of poverty and ignorance. And I agree with you, but it is not an argument against the existence of God, because you can argue, well, their understanding of God is flawed.
Yeah, I think whether you believe in the concept of God or not, but as soon as the humans start thinking that they know what God means to do, that's when it becomes corrupted. As soon as we've entered into the argument, as soon as we've had people who think they can quote from God, that's when the whole thing becomes corrupted. some people need to understand the fact that, you know, we're not necessarily the end result of creativity. We're just a part of it. So was God there for us, or was he there for the rest of the world as well? Now, if he's the creator, and the rest of the world is part of his creation, we now need to understand that we are the anomaly in his creation. And not therefore because of creation.
Yeah, it's a dilemma. There is possibility that could be that scenario, but then you have to then question if there is that God who is going to has created us among other species, which is this is not further from the truth. Remember, 99.999% of all species that have ever existed are already extinct. So that's a very wasteful God, in my opinion. So if you
that's because you're endowing him with a human element.
No, wasteful is wasteful. So what would you define something that was never going to creating something? Remember, when you add omniscience to his attribute, knowing what is going to happen in the future, then by definition he's wasteful.
Omniscience means all-knowing. Omnipotence means all-powerful.
There's a difference between a creator and a minder.
Oh yeah, okay, then we
So
agree.
I think he's talking about an omnibenevolent God, something that's completely benevolent.
And all I'm saying is that as soon as we get involved with humans, we corrupt the whole process.
If that God does not require your worship, then we are wasting our time here. He's just created us and letting you sort of explore life and it's a journey for all of us to discover and self-growth, but he doesn't care what you do, and there's no hell, there's no heaven. Then we might as well be talking about critiquing the latest movie in Hollywood.
Yeah, but that's only concepts we've been taught in our crowd, how we've been brought up.
Oh yeah.
No concept of God whatsoever, and they're living quite fruitful lives. Depends whose opinion you want.
Absolutely, and there are people who have used that over the years to come up with ideas. And like Adam's 200 years ago, Mormonism is a manufactured religion in our own time, a convicted, guy committed felony and crimes and was sent to jail. Claimed that there was an angel called Naranai, and there was 2 tablets of gold that were written in ancient Egyptians and all that sort of stuff. It was manufactured in front of it. Scientology. It keeps happening and people keep falling for it. But if we're going to dilute and say, well, God could be everything and everything, we don't know. Well, if we don't know, then we don't know. Then we say, how about we say, we don't know, let's go on about life and treat ourselves nicely until otherwise.
So that's the difference between a God as a creator and a God as a benevolent being that wants to have a relationship with us. I think that's what you were saying.
I think
you're next.
We seem to have discarded this God, which you call the God of Spinoza, but I don't see any reason why a mystic that couldn't be exactly the sort of God that a mystic was attempting to make contact with, as the consciousness of the universe. And that whole notion of love is quite problematic, but also the notion of a personal relationship, because it's in the literature you can find that the relationship can be one of the person to God, but it can also be one of being a part of God, if you want.
Yeah, but remember, the God of Spinoza and God of Einstein is an impersonal God. So there isn't much of a point of trying to have a relationship with that, because it's actually not a personal entity. It's everything. It's atom and it's all that sort of stuff. So there isn't that. So again, you're trying to personalize that impersonal God.
But take the word love. If you say perfect loving, then that can mean that it loves, every, what we call a person or entity or something equally, right? Now that, to logic, if you want, looks exactly the same as uncaring.
Oh yeah, absolutely, I agree.
We've got this so-called perfectly loving God, which doesn't look particularly different from your Spinoza God.
No, because we're talking about because remember, we are criticizing the notion of the God who's advertised himself in his own literature, saying, "I am a personal God. I care for you. I want to have a direct relationship with you, and I want you to love me back as much as I love you. And I've created hell just in case you don't love me back," sort of thing.
Just as a point of order, would you say that the Old Testament treats God differently?
Well, they're two
than the
different
New
gods.
Testament?
In my opinion, they're two different gods.
Yeah,
Almost.
like I would say the New Testament would be a more benevolent God than the Old Testament, perhaps. We make the Old Testament more Spinoza.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jesus is completely different from Yahweh,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, and you can see that.
But if he's all-knowing, how on earth did he have to change himself to the New Testament?
Oh, I agree. I think that here's a logical thing you'd enjoy. I think the omniscience and omnipotence are in contradiction. You'll have to be one or the other. You cannot be both. You cannot be an omnipotent and omniscient. You know the dilemma. There is a dilemma in there.
Yeah.
Can God create a rock too heavy that he could not carry? That's the classic.
Well, something we've invented is something we don't understand.
I agree. But if that God is making it that difficult for us, for all these brains to sit around trying to understand what could it be, and it's still not evident,
There's
then
actually maybe nothing to understand.
exactly. Just be nice to each other.
The New Testament God sends people to hell. He's not a very nice bloke either.
The Old
Testament God.
The hell in the Judaism is very ambiguous. It doesn't come until a bit later, actually. In the earlier Judaism...
No, in the New Testament.
In the New Testament, yes. Absolutely.
I'm saying
Yes.
the God of the New Testament is not a nice bloke. You're saying he is.
On the surface of it. Yes, but when you get the damnation and the actual hell, it is actually ultimately probably even worse, because at least with the Yahweh, or if you're Jewish, he can just bloody die and vanish. But this one, the party
forever.
Yeah, the party starts when he actually
dies. In some ways in the Old Testament.
Yeah. So you can absolutely, you can see it that way. Any other objections or? Yeah, please.
Just wanted to say a little bit about premise one, because it's been questioned a couple of times. And there's a more generic objection to it, to the objection to the objections that you gave, Hanney. So, for example, and this is the same kind of objection, general objection that's given to the problem of evil, so they've got a similarity there. But take the case of somebody, an atheist in a concentration camp, and they suffer immensely in the German concentration camp, and they die. So, prima facie, that looks like a case of the God who's, if he exists, is not expressing love at all. So, prima facie, it looks like there wasn't a loving God in that case, because the God allowed this person to suffer enormously and made no personal connection. So the most general objection to the implication there, if there is a perfectly loving God, then there exists a God who is always open to a personal relationship. The most general objection is God could have a reason for allowing that disconnect, not showing not having a personal connection. God could have a reason, and of all the reasons that have been given, they've all failed, like character building. But the most general objection is that God could have had a reason, and because of our finite minds, we just don't know what that reason is.
Skepticism.
They're similar to the most general objection to the problem of evil.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to say is the problem with that objection, and that is that if in this case we can't conclude, in the concentration camp case, we can't conclude that the God is not in a loving relationship, God is not expressing love in that case, then that translates to, how do we ever ascribe to a human being that they're a loving human being? And I'll give you an example. You know, the guy throws his daughter, which is a true case, guy threw his daughter off the bridge and the daughter died. And so prima facie, it looks like that father didn't have a loving relationship with the daughter. But if we allow this theistic objection to go through, we then have to question, somebody could say, this father who threw the daughter off the bridge, they could be a loving father, and they had a reason for throwing, a moral reason for throwing their daughter off the bridge, but we just don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well,
so it really brings into question whether, if this objection goes through, it really brings into question whether we can ever ascribe the characteristic of love, being loving, to another human being.
It happened in the Bible. Abraham is about to kill his son Isaac because God has sort of inspired that, and that would have been a perfectly loving act because he was just following the divine whispering, which is obviously, if it happens in today's sort of current affairs, that will be dubbed a completely different situation. Obviously, that person is not Isaac in Islam; it's actually Ishmael, and that's how you get the Arabs and the Jews sort of split.
You can ask the question: is God rational or irrational? And that could be another.
But the thing is, you know, if you sort of subscribe to William Lane Craig and some presuppositions, that they'll actually say to you that logic is actually stems from God. All your logic and all your objective moral values come from God. So they don't exist.
God has to be rational.
Yes. So they call it philosophy a necessary being, or a properly basic belief. So it's with everything begins
So that
with
would
God.
imply that Les's argument is correct, that it's bulldust.
Yeah, but then it gives you it's an answer to non-answer. It's an answer to appealing to a bigger mystery. It's almost like we don't know how it happens, therefore God. Okay, so we actually postulated a more complex entity that had neat series of other explanations. So I will always invoke Occam Razor and go the simplest. I'll go with the simplest possible solution until proven otherwise. I'm still open. Show me the evidence. Any other questions or happy to?
Another solution they have. They go for Jesus. They don't like God. I mean, they decided that God is no good. So they adopted Jesus. And it's so crazy. They follow the idea of the Jesus.
You'd be very surprised. Actually, some sects in Christianity who would actually believe that obviously in proper Christianity or the mainstream Christianity, God and the Son and the Holy Ghost is actually three but one person in the three different sort of forms, like water, steam, ice, and liquid. But so actually there are some other Christian churches who actually believe in three separate persons. And there's actually a conflict between the God the Father and the Son. And actually the Son is the nicer dude, and God is more of that sort of the classical father who can coerce and punish. And Jesus actually is always in constant conflict with him. So it is, there's so many theologies within Christianity about if you look into Trinity and the concept of Trinity and probe it, you'll come up with weird stuff going on. So it's.
And then to make it more juicy, they have the ghost.
The Holy Ghost,
The
Spirit of God.
It's a very sexy, randy ghost.
Yeah, it is a difficult concept, but there are a lot of people that believe in it, and I'll always make sure that the argument is valid and it does not hurt people's beliefs, and will aim to target the objective knowledge of what they think it's right or wrong. Ridiculing too much or going too much jokingly about what they believe, it's actually probably end up being counterproductive and gets people hurt, and they get them on the defensive straight away, so that they're not open. Yeah. Anything else? Or are we happy guys to do the poll now to see where you guys at with your thinking about this?
But it is a good business.
It is very lucrative.
I thought of God. I will be rich right now. It's a good business.
But you know what? I'm going to challenge atheism sometimes, because there are now a new wave of celebrity atheism, where people are pure thinkers, but there are people benefiting financially from. It's almost the opposite axiom of religion. So you speak about anti-religion and then you make money too. So it works both ways. Humans are very thrifty that way. We make money and we have to survive somehow.
Is it a different land tax? Women, they're going to get into land tax.
Well, this would make a very good topic for the Atheist Society if you want to think about it.
Love to. Yeah. Well, David, just before you terminate this, okay, so this is the second poll, please. If you want to go now to the same site you started, this is a new code, and we get to see if things have shifted a bit. So the before and the after. Before the operation, after the operation.
Can I just, to finish off, tell you a joke of an atheist and Christian?
Yeah, sure.
Well, there is this atheist and goes through the woods, and all of a sudden he sees, oh God, there's this bear charging at him. He's got no hope of escaping. There he says, oh God, and he thinks, oh God, yeah, I know it's hypocritical. I can't ask you for help because I've been an atheist all my life. But couldn't you make the bear Christian? Yes, God says, I can do that. So the bear charges, stops short, falls on his knees and prays and says, for the meal I am supposed to receive, may I truly be grateful.
So he still goes true to his nature. Bear is a bear.
Yeah, well, he became a Christian.
A bear has to eat still.
Okay, so let's thank Hanney.
So David, I'm going to now display, if you don't mind, the results. If you guys are ready to have a look at the results after and before? So this is the post session. Oh, yes, it's gone up.
I'm still undecided.
No, that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. That is good. So it looks like a few of you sort of made up your mind to go with the.
You haven't done the manual poll. The people who haven't done it.
Absolutely. So okay. So that's based on those who voted, and there were. I've got here 6 people.
Only 4 people have voted from this. I think there was 9 last time.
Right. Yeah. A few people looks like they have left as well. Okay. So anybody who said no that's now going to say yes or undecided, that's gone from no to undecided or to yes? Okay.
I've gone from undecided
to?
Well, to more than that. Probably, I like the argument of no. I do like the argument though.
Okay.
Very nice argument. I wouldn't want to track the argument or the axioms or whatever.
So I take it you're a Christian, you're a believer.
I didn't use those arguments.
No, I understand. It's just obviously, as I said, if you are a believer, I will never expect anybody will change their mind. Hopefully this will just be the start of something. That's fine. Of you probing more and looking more into this, but that's fine. I never expect people to have got axiomatic belief, 25 or 30 years of believing something just to change it because...
No, I actually had a doubt while I was listening to everything.
That's all right.
I don't know, one of the people were talking here, I don't know who it was, and it felt pretty bad. I don't know if it was Elka or something, but it felt pretty bad.
I said no, I'm a no.
Getting a yes result isn't that
No, that's all right. But I would like people to, when they say no, I would say no, but when I say no, I would say I will know why I'm saying no. Because otherwise, if you're going with feelings, and then again, it's a cycle that gets repeated and repeated and repeated. If you don't have a good reason why it's a no or a yes or undecided, then it is something for you to sort of discover in your own head. But all opinions are respected, but somehow it's shifted a bit. Anybody, who else was undecided? Yeah? The 2 undecided. You gone? Okay. So we've got a couple of undecided people gone yes. Okay. Very good.
So if you want to continue the conversation, there's all those Facebook pages we were mentioning before where the discussion of this topic is taking place. So